Hello, let's get into this. This is going to be a discussion of the Golden State Killer while you watch me make 4 winter or holiday DIYs. First one's pretty simple, self-explanatory, plastic ornaments, little puff balls. Throw them in, throw in some sequins, and there you go. So let's get started. Golden State Killer, serial rapist, over 50 rapes, at least 13 murders, and over 100 burglaries in California from 74 to 86. So, he's also known as the East Area Rapist, the original Night Stalker, not to be confused with the Night Stalker, which was Richard Ramirez, and the Visalia Ransacker, also the East Bay Rapist, if you've heard those names. But Golden State Killer is what stuck, and I think the reason that stuck is because of Michelle McNamara. I could be wrong, but Michelle McNamara, amazing woman who has passed away. She had an amazing blog called True Crime Diaries, and she wrote a book called I'll Be Gone in the Night, I think. I'll Be Gone in the Night. Anyway, a couple years ago, I bought that book and I took it away to Dominican for our March break vacation, and that was just what I needed to relax. It was an amazing true crime book. And she did pass away before it was finished. So I think it was her friend, Billy Jensen, who finished it with her. Get the book, you'll see. It talks all about it. It's so wonderfully written, and it's so detailed, and it tells you everything you need to know. Now, the Golden State Killer was still at large when she wrote the book and has since been captured, which is just unreal considering it was 40 years of crime. And here he is, finally, at 77, captured. But we'll talk more about that in a minute. Let's just go right back to his very first attack. And this is summer 1976 in California, in Rancho Cordova. So a young woman worked for the Bell Company and lived with her father. And her father was going on a vacation, so she felt she had been being watched, and on several occasions she noticed an older, dark American car, whatever that means, American car, drove through the neighborhood. Every time the car passed, the driver would turn his face away, but she felt something was odd about it. So her father left town for 6 weeks, and the attack happens 4 weeks after he's left. But you have to understand that things were happening in the weeks prior to the attack. She was hearing things. There was strange phone calls where there would just be silence on the other end. And it was super creepy. And this is what this asshole would do. He would stalk his victims for quite a while, get to know their houses and their routines, and really kind of insert himself into, their lives for a little bit before he went in and attacked them. So, around 5 p.m. on June 17th, and this time he was only committing rapes, not only, but he had been just raping up at this point. So that he was called the East Area Rapist. He used the railroad tracks near her house, made his way through the backyard and broke in. So he stood there and he cut the telephone line with a knife, which is every horror movie you watched when you were a kid. And then he used the knife to chip away at the back door's lock, and then he was able to get in. So he woke her up. This is what a creep this guy was. He would wake them up by turning the lights on, and he would be in the doorway of the bedroom with a mask on, with just his shirt and no pants. Ugh. So he taps the doorway, and he calls her name. So she knows he has been watching her. Oh, he's so gross. She pulls the cover over her head because she's terrified. What else is she going to do? This poor thing. And he straddles her, and he presses his knife against her temple so hard that it cuts her. And he says, if you make one move, I'll stick this knife in you. So he commands her to roll over. He rapes her multiple times. He ties her feet and ankles together with a cord. Now, he also does these very intricate knots, and I think, well, obviously that's why he was at one point known as the Diamond Knot Killer, but that didn't really stick. He continues to assault her and threaten her, and then he leaves the room. So she's laying there, she hears nothing. So she's waiting for him to return because she's absolutely terrified. So she inches toward the kitchen, expecting him to jump out at any moment because she doesn't hear him leave. And the door to the backyard is open. So she kicks it closed, deadbolts it, probably still terrified he's in the house somewhere. And she makes it to her father's bedroom and she calls 911. So let's talk about the next creepy part of this. So he obviously had committed rape before, and we can trace back he's known by all these different names because he was such a prolific rapist that he was doing so many assaults that they thought it was multiple people when it was just him. So these rapes are happening. I'm going to tell you about another one before I tell you about the community meeting, just because I don't want to detail this asshole's rapes too much because it's more about talking about how great it is that he got caught than what he's done. But you just really didn't know what he was doing to terrorize these communities. So before I talk about another attack, I'll just tell you that I went to the Michaels and I bought a bunch of embroidery hoops and some cheap fabric, and I just popped the fabric in there, cut around, glue the rest to the back of it, and I have a couple cute little pins. I think I show you a pin after I'm done making these, and they're little pin displays, or whatever you want. You could even just paint something on there or glitter something on there, whatever, or just leave it like that. It would look pretty, like little tiny, 3 or 4 little tiny ones, all different sizes, would be such a nice display. Anyway, love those. They were so easy. But back to this asshole. All right, registered nurse. So, this is in San Jose in 1978. So you may have heard this about the plates on the husband's back. So the Golden State Killer is still at this point raping. He breaks into this home through the sliding glass door. He went to the bedroom. He shines a flashlight on the couple. The wife wakes up and sees him in a ski mask. And she screams, and he says, "Shut up or I'll kill you and don't look at me." The husband wakes up, tries to attack him, but the assailant hit him with the barrel of the gun, and then he makes the woman tie up her husband. So this is what he had done multiple times. This is just one explanation of, or one incident. So he's tied up. He then takes the man's tied up. He gets a stack of plates from their kitchen, puts the man on his stomach while his hands and feet are tied behind him, and balances the plates on his back. And then he says, "If these fall, I'll hear them and I'll kill you both." And he has the knife at her neck. So he brings her out to the living room, and he's all fucked up too. He is definitely whispering to himself in a high-pitched voice during these attacks, and the victims will account that he would say things like, "I'm going to kill them, I'm going to kill them, I'm going to kill them." He would mention the name Bonnie, and it's already a horrible situation, but then this guy's coming unraveled and talking to himself. So he attacks the wife, rapes the wife, hisses at the husband. The dishes did actually crash to the floor twice. I'm sure he was probably shaking, and he goes quickly and sticks the gun in the husband's head and threatens him. It goes on, and eventually, after several minutes, he leaves. She mentions he's crying, so he's obviously, I don't know, maybe he's thinking of Bonnie, whatever, and he's gone. So these are the kinds of attacks that are happening, and this is before he graduates to any kind of murder. So there's decade-long investigation about this, and in 2001, DNA testing indicated that the East Area rapist was the same person as the original Night Stalker. So if you read Michelle McNamara's book, you'll know that she uses these acronyms, EAR for East Area Rapist and ONS for Original Night Stalker. And so she knows these are the same people, but she details their crimes, his crimes, I guess, separately. So 1986, victim Janelle Cruz, 18, one of the youngest victims. It had been 4 years and 9 months since the killer was last known to have committed attacks, and she was a cashier. On the evening of May 4th, a male coworker dropped her off, and they heard noises outside. And he looked outside, she looked outside, and they heard noises again. But I guess he talks her into, it's nothing, and he drives away around 11 p.m. And then soon after, um, a car door slammed, and he knew it was Janelle's because of the defective muffler. So, wait, why am I saying that? Why is that important? Why did I highlight that? Oh, the neighbor thought for sure that Janelle had gone out at 11:15 because they heard the car. But then the next day, her body was found in her home by a prospective buyer. Anyway, it was terrible. She was struck in the back of the head and viciously struck in the face, and it looked like the weapon may have been a pipe missing from her own backyard. May 14th, 1977, the wife was a waitress, the husband was the manager of the restaurant, and the victims, the husband and wife, like this Golden State Killer, had grown to, started with single women and then started going after couples. They started getting hang-up phone calls, and he did this earlier to one of his first victims where he would call after the attack and she would just hear silence. So they were getting the prank phone calls before the attack, and then there'd be knocks at the door, and there would be a white male in his 30s. And he would say, this was weird. He said he was from the American Pet Association. Does she have any pets she wants to register? And she would say no. However, I think this might be why we have a couple of the sketches that we had of Golden State Killer, because, he was only caught a few years ago. So we have some of these sketches and police sketches, and if you Google them and look them up, it could be anyone. There's sketches of him in a mask. He's got blonde hair. He's got darker hair, he's got long hair, he's got short hair. He's been described in so many different ways. But when you actually see, and I'll talk about the actual killer here in a bit, the sketches do kind of look like him. So big ups to the sketch artist, because that shit's got to be hard. But anyway, this American Pet Association guy, obviously, maybe gave people the best, I guess, description of what this guy was like. So after going to bed, the wife says, I hear something. And her husband said, it's just a cat. Listen to your wife. She knows. Like when our lizard brains or the hair on the back of our neck stands up, we fucking know something's weird. I tell it to my husband all the time, and he listens, because I said, when I feel weird in a room with someone, and I'm not going to mention any names on here, but there's a reason. And it's not a good one. So she knew something was up. So, of course, he breaks in, shines a flashlight in their eyes, and threatens, I have a 45 and I'll kill you if you move. So, of course, she has to tie up the husband, blah, 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 same thing. And he screams, don't hurt her. And he says, shut up or I kill you. So, one thing that happens, I'm going to pause right there on that one because I'm going to talk crafts for 2 seconds, but I do think, I hate to stop right there. But anyway, here we are. I just took a piece of cardboard and cut it out about the size of a small piece of paper and put 8 or 9 cuts in the bottom and 8 or 9 cuts in the top, and I'm just looping the yarn through to make a little hand-woven tapestry. It doesn't turn out as sweet as I wanted it to. I think I'm going to fast forward this, or yeah, there. Wait, is that slow? I think I'm trying to speed it up. So at some point this should go quickly. And you're just going to take your yarn and use a bobby pin and just weave it over, under, all the way up and down that until you can tie the ends and you have a cute little tapestry. I don't know what I'm doing with the camera right there. Who knows? Hopefully it'll speed up soon because this will be super boring for you to watch, if it don't. All right, so he finds, so he has the husband tied up very tightly. The dog, this is interesting, the dog has no reaction to the intruder. So we do think, because I'm looping myself in with law enforcement here, we think at this time that he had been visiting the dog and maybe feeding the dog or threatening something to make the dog afraid or unafraid so the dog doesn't react. He has a fucking beer from their fridge. And yeah, this is 77 and before DNA, but like he's just such a cocky asshole. Like sometimes he would have snacks or look around their house and do strange things. And he'd threaten them the whole time that they're tied up. And, he'd rape the wife. So, okay. So he puts a teacup on the back of this husband, a saucer and a teacup, and takes the wife in and calls her beautiful. And while he's raping her, asks her if she'd like to be in the river. So he continues his sexual assault, and she begs him, of course, to leave, and he takes her rings and he leaves. So, okay, what we're left with now is he begins to escalate, and his crimes become, he begins to commit murders, and goes rape, murder, ransack. He's moving throughout California. Law enforcement at this time thinks he's more than one person. He's become very difficult to catch because of this. And he has been actually described by his victims as extremely athletic. And it's interesting because they weren't sure if he was like an awkward, because of the strange things he did and how they didn't see him with athletic prowess in the attacks. When he left or was caught in the backyard of someone's house as a prowler, ransacker, he seemed to leap over fences and things like that. And it really, people thought, does he have a military background? Why does he have these kind of skills? Parkour, if you will, as the kids say. Okay, so moving on. Let's see how that's going. It's looking pretty cute. When I'm weaving the yarn through, I do pull a little bit tighter, and so it's starting to like bow in a little bit, but I kind of like that. Maybe I don't know. I don't know how you make those things square, but I kind of liked how it came out. Anyway, moving on. All right, so this asshole has been raping, robbing, murdering, and get this, listen to this is huge. There's a community meeting. There's been so many rapes in the area, Sacramento County, that they called a community meeting. So, in the meeting, a gentleman stands up and says, this is impossible. I can't believe that, a man is going to let his wife, this is the 70s, so sexist asshole. But anyway, let his wife get raped. What kind of man would ever let his wife be raped in his own home and blah, blah, blah. So 2 weeks later, that man who stood up at the community meeting and said, how can a man let his wife be raped in his own home, is attacked. His wife is raped in his own home. So what does that tell you? Yes, the Golden State Killer was at that meeting. Now there is a picture of that meeting, and you can look it up. And now that we know who the Golden State Killer is, you can't really tell. Like I've looked at that picture, and I looked at pictures of who the Golden State Killer is, and I know I'm not trying to hide it from you. Anyway, you can't really tell. There's so many people there, and you don't know who's who and which one. But obviously, he was there, or that would not have happened. And what a cocky prick. So let's move on. Totally just got interrupted. Sorry, again. I'm back again. Pause. I don't know if that was
where were we?
Edit or whatever. Something came up. Kids, let's talk about how this fucker was caught. Okay, so we know. I think I just
he had committed
about how
so
he was
many,
at the meeting, which I think I probably have said this multiple times.
Crimes
in California.
So this asshole,
and he had
people thought he had a military background.
Police weren't sure if they're looking for the three people or one person or whatever. He's committed so many. So Detective Paul Holes will look him up. He's a big deal now.
And at this point,
he's chased this guy down
detectives that are
for a long time.
On this case,
and what happens is DNA from rape kits is often thrown out, or was thrown out, certainly in the 70s and 80s. And there's a statute of limitations on rape, which is such bullshit. Like the trauma from rape, goes away. Anyway, there's a statute of limitations. So when the time's up, these rape kits are thrown out. But this detective kept the DNA sample from this prick, thinking, I'm going to find this guy. So he keeps it, and technology is always advancing, and here we are. So this is how this goes down. There, those family DNA things. I don't know which one. I don't know if anyone knows which one because I've seen different reports. So Detective Paul Holes asks if he can have that DNA checked against the database that these DNA companies are collecting, thinking, well, maybe we'll be able to identify him this way. And sure enough, say it was 23andMe or whatever, it shows that he has a female relative in California who has put her DNA in this company. And what does this mean, like, for so many other criminals? Like, go ahead, go in that database. I know people think it's just, they're collecting all your information, but who cares if you can catch a killer? So they go to this woman and say, we know that, and they don't give out her name, of course. We know that you are a female relative of the East Area Rapist / original Night Stalker / Golden State Killer, because the DNAs are all a match. So they know it's a male in her family. And I don't know if it was like her father, her uncle, distant cousin. I have no idea. But anyway, so they do a little bit of research, and sure enough, Joseph James DeAngelo. And he was, not only did he have a military background, but he was a fucking police officer at the time he was committing these crimes. So this 72-year-old, sorry. So in 2018, 2 years ago, the authorities arrested Joseph James DeAngelo with 8 counts of first-degree murder based on evidence. He committed more murder and over 50 rapes, yes, but based on evidence, they charged him with what they could. So he couldn't be charged with the 1970 rapes, which is bullshit, but anyway. So this guy, and you can look at him, he looks like a frail old man. What an idiot. I think he was still, his neighbors said he was still very spry and strong and fit. But anyway, I think he shows up to court one time in a wheelchair, spare me. DNA doesn't lie. You committed these crimes. It's 40 years later, but you're still going to pay for it. So in April in 2008, there wasn't DNA linking DeAngelo to some of the Central Valley cases, but they're pretty confident that he was the Visalia ransacker and East Area Rapist. Just pausing for a sec. The tapestry's done. It looked okay. My whole idea was I was going to put this on my little vision board. I have this pretty vision board in front of me right now, and I change it. Oh, these are so cute, these little mini envelopes. They're at Sarika Studio, the artist, has them free on her blog. I think it's Sarika, you can see up there. So you just print it on cardstock. And I did this with my students last week because it was so cute. Print it on a pretty cardstock. I just chose a cream color because I wanted to be able to decorate with washi tape. And I think I sped up the cutting. And I wanted it to match because I'm just loving the neutral brown and gray and yellows and things like that right now. So I did it in cream, cut them out, used typical school glue to glue them up and decorate them. I think they're super cute. You could totally use those for your deliver a note to your elf on the shelf. God, these topics are so far apart. I can't believe I do this. Anyway, they're what I love. So yeah, see, just the school glue I buy for my kids. And glue those up and decorate them with washi tape or stickers or whatever you want. Put little notes in them. They're super cute. So, anyway, that's it for the Golden State Killer. That motherfucker's caught. So when I think of Michelle McNamara, who's totally a true crime hero to a lot of us who are into true crime, and I certainly wasn't before I had kids. I think I say that a version of this every time I talk a voiceover or speak a voiceover into this computer for one of these things. I do this because I want to know every which way somebody could hurt me or my family, and I want to make sure I can, avoid it. That's why I think a lot of women are interested in true crime and Dateline. So we got to figure out like how can someone hurt me, because for sadly men have had the upper hand. I know it's 2019, things are changing, but they've had the upper hand for so long that you have to be careful. You have to know potential dangers. So here we are. This guy in jail. And I hope he's on suicide watch, because I would not want him to die by his own hand. I really need him to suffer after what he's done. And a lot of his victims, like the 50 rapes, a lot of his victims are still alive, obviously. And how it must feel to know that he's in jail. It must just be, certainly not gratifying in the sense that it's over, because sure, it wouldn't be over for them, but just so relieved that he can't hurt anyone anymore. Just using a little bit of washi tape to make that. I think I folded it inside out and you could see the fold lines, so I'm just covering those up. And I think I'll put a little note in that and I'll stick it to my vision board. And in about a minute or two in this video, I'll show you my vision board. I don't know why I called it a vision board, because I just put things I like and colors I like and prints from artists I like. And it's just, I light it up and it makes me happy when I'm sitting here doing work or making a video or editing a video or even just doing art. There you go. So that was like, and I want to tell you, I used Wikipedia, of course. Who else did I use? What's this? MercuryNews.com. I use that. I use My Favorite Murder, the podcast, as a source. I know you don't want to sit here and, I'm not the best researcher, because I kind of only want to know the juicy parts. So I can't give you a whole lot of background, but that's the basics of it. That's the basics of the Golden State Killer. And if you look him up, you'll see. And if you look at the 3 sketches on the FBI had when they were reopening the case in 2016, thanks to Michelle McNamara, I'm sure she's the reason they reopened that case. Those sketches were pretty good when you look at him at that age. It's unreal. Anyway, I'm happy to say he's caught. There, cute little envelope. Now I think I'm gonna scroll it, or no, what do you call that? Like, I don't know. I'm teaching myself to edit. I don't know what I'm doing. I thought I had a picture of my, oh, look. Oh yeah, so artsy. Blow out my candle. And roll up and look at my vision board. Isn't it pretty? Joanne Studio Print at your lab. I love their art supplies. Oh, guess that's it. Bye.